What up, everyone? Back with another video. This time we're doing a movie review and discussion. So we got Suicide Squad. Some people are calling it Suicide Squad 2, but I don't know if it technically is. We'll get into that in a second. But that's what we're reviewing today. So we're going to talk a little bit about it. I'm going to give you my thoughts and opinions, and then I want to hear your thoughts and opinions in the comments. Thank you to everyone that has been weighing in. I do read all your comments. I like responding to them. So thank you for getting a discussion going, because that's what this channel is all about. It's a small channel, small community. I like to make it feel personal. That's what I'm here for. So please don't ever hesitate to give me your opinions and start a discussion. So we'll make this pretty simple. I don't have a ton to say about this movie. I'll just break it down. Things I liked, things I didn't like, and give it like a general score. And that's it. Keep it real basic. So let's just start off right away with things I liked about this movie. Overall, first of all, better than I thought it would be. I had very, very low expectations for this movie for a number of reasons, like recent DC films based on the last movie. So my standards were pretty low, but better than I thought, but not by much, just a little bit. Things I liked about it. I always like when they do little nods and cameos and things like that. They're very, very subtle, and most people don't pick up on them until later when they see like some other YouTube video mentioning these people. But I don't know if anyone caught it. At the very beginning, when people were getting injected, the guy that was doing the injecting is the creator of Suicide Squad. And there were a lot of other people in there that were like creators or something like that that made little appearances. You'd have to really know who they are and be looking to recognize them. But I always think that's cool. I like it when there's like Easter eggs is the term I was trying to think of. Little Easter eggs in there that are kind of cool that you can go back and watch and appreciate later. So I always like that. I like that they finally went rated R. Let's be honest, the first one, it should have been rated R. It really should have been. It needed to be rated R. I don't know why they didn't. I think that was a really bad call, but I think everyone would have liked it more if it was. So I'm glad they're pushing the envelope in that sense. And I've been saying this for the longest time. That's what DC needs to focus on. That's really what they need to do. For the longest time, they were trying to follow in Marvel's footsteps, and that's just a terrible idea. They need to do what Marvel's not doing, and that is being edgy. Marvel is Disney. They're going to be very cookie cutter, and DC needs to be edgy. They need to do more rated R stuff or do things that are inappropriate. It doesn't always need to be rated R, but you know what I mean. They need to play that side of things. So I'm glad they're at least going that route. I'm glad they're headed that direction, which is a good sign. So I was happy to see that. They just need to organize a little bit better because the DCEU is just a shit show right now. So once they get a little more organized, I think they have some real potential. I like the characters in general. I know Suicide Squad is supposed to be those really random characters because they often get killed off. But I liked King Shark. I think he was like one of my favorite characters. So I really liked him. And although he wasn't in it a ton, I thought he was a funny character. And a lot of the other characters were pretty cool too. And I liked that they had a lot of music in this one. That was what I really liked about the first Suicide Squad, was that it had a lot of music and tone to it. And that's why that trailer for the first Suicide Squad was like the most viewed trailer ever, because it was really cool. I liked that they had a lot of music. I liked that they kept it in that theme. So this one wasn't nearly as much and didn't have as much pop music, but it did that a little bit. It had a lot of music in it. It had a lot of songs that kind of went along with the theme. So I liked that. So in a sense, to me, it kind of reminds me of Guardians of the Galaxy. They did that same thing. Me personally, I like it when they incorporate music and like classic songs into the movies. I think that's really cool. And in a way, Suicide Squad did the same thing. It's like the adult version of Guardians of the Galaxy. The Guardians of the Galaxy is for everyone, and they have that same music theme, but for adults. So that's what I kind of thought about that. And they had this was done by James Gunn, and I like that they have a lot of the same actors. I'm guessing they're friends. They have Sean Gunn in it. For those of you who don't know, he's James Gunn's little brother. And he was in this movie for a split second, and he was also played Weasel, because he was in Guardians of the Galaxy, and Yondu was in this too. He was that first character they showed. So I like that they have these like common themes that it's kind of like a group of friends that go and make movies and travel along together. So I think that's kind of cool that you always see them. And it's cool that James Gunn has his little brother there. I think that's cool that they do movies together. So I appreciated that. But it was funny to see like two different of the Guardians characters in it, Yondu and Sean Gunn. And I'm sure there were some other characters too. So I like that. I like that a lot. And then I thought the ending was much better than the original. But, I thought the beginning was much better in the original. The first Suicide Squad, the first half of that movie was amazing. I still love it to this day. It was so well done. The ending just like took a shit. And this one had a much better ending. It was much more believable. It made a little more sense. So I like the ending much better. And I like that they didn't, spoiler alert by the way, I like that they didn't end up killing the Peacemaker character, because I know he has a show coming out, but I was worried that he would die in this movie and the TV show would be a prequel to this. I was kind of worried that they would do that, and I hate when they do that. Same thing they did with Black Widow, how they made a movie after she had already died. Like, it totally takes away from that character. So I'm glad that they didn't do that with this, and that he ends up living. We'll see how that show does. His character was okay. I think he tried a little too hard to be funny, and I don't think what's that fucking actor's name? I don't think the actor that played him is particularly a good actor. But we'll see. We'll see how that show goes. I'm not super excited for it, but we'll see how it comes out. And then I like that some of the better characters survived. Some of my favorite ones. Like, I really like, obviously they're not going to kill Harley. She's way too popular. And King Shark survived. I thought he was a cool character. The Rat Tamer, I like that actress. I thought she was a pretty good actress, honestly. I liked her character. And then Bloodsport. So those are some of the better characters that survived. I'm glad they didn't kill off all the good characters. So those are some quick notes of the things I liked. Now, let's go on the other side, talk about some things I didn't like. First of all, a lot of the acting, there were some good actors in there, like Idris Elba. Is that how you pronounce it? Idris Elba. He's a very good actor. Like I said, that chick that played the Rat Tamer too, she was a good actress. And Margot Robbie's is a pretty decent one. A lot of the other characters, though, were not so great on the acting. So some of the acting in this was a little bit rough. And as far as the story, they just like jumped right into it. So I'm still a little confused to this day. Supposedly, when I first heard about they were doing this movie, it's not Suicide Squad 2, by the way. The first one was Suicide Squad, and this one is The Suicide Squad. And as far as I knew, it's called a soft reboot. And as far as I could tell, that's potentially what it was. And essentially what that means for people that don't know, a reboot is they completely redo the movie. The first movie, if they reboot it, is just wiped from the slate and doesn't make sense anymore. It's not canon anymore, and they completely redo it with everything. Soft reboot is where they don't necessarily erase the first movie, but they also don't directly talk about the first movie. So that's why it's called a soft reboot. So it's not a sequel, but they're also not completely redoing it. So some of the characters are still there, some of the characters' backstory still translate over, but they don't ever directly address the first movie. So that's what's called a soft reboot, and that's, from what I saw, that seems like what it was. So there wasn't a lot of backstory to pretty much any of these characters. They just really jumped right into it. The scene started right away, and they just started the mission right away, which I wasn't too much of a fan of. I liked the first movie, how they had, it was only quick little backstories, but each character had its own quick little 2-3 minute scene that really told their story and showed some of the history, how they got arrested, how they ended up in jail, what their motives are, really quickly describe each character. I like that. And this movie really didn't do that. They kind of did with the Bloodsport character, but that was really it. And I'm also kind of bummed that some of the characters died just so early on. I figured they were going to. Like Pete Davidson, I really like him as an actor. I think he's a funny guy, and I was excited to see he was in this movie, but I knew they were going to kill him off, but I didn't think they were going to do it that soon. You can always tell the characters they're going to kill off because they're just not well developed. They don't look very well, or their characters aren't developed really well, or they're not very good actors. You can always pick out these people are probably going to die. But I'm kind of bummed he died in the first 2 minutes of the movie. That was kind of a bummer, because I think he would have been really good on that team long run, because he's a funny guy. And John Cena, the name I was trying to think of, he tries so hard to be funny, and he's just not really that funny. Pete Davidson is just a naturally funny guy, so I wish they would have kept him around longer, because he just had a lot of potential. So I figured they were going to kill off a lot of characters. Suicide Squad, that's kind of what they do. They kill people off, but so soon, it was, I don't know, not really bugged me, but it bummed me out because I wanted to see more of these characters. But it kind of is what it is. And I'm bummed they killed off Rick Flag. He was a pretty critical character. I'm sure they had reasons for it. I'm sure he didn't want to do the movies anymore, but I was pretty surprised they killed him off, and that's kind of a bummer too. And like I was saying before with them jumping into it, there was just a lack of character development. The first one wasn't like super in depth, but you got a basic idea of the motives of each of these characters. Whereas in this movie, it just kind of started. They just kind of started on the mission, and that was it. And every once in a while, they talk a little bit and kind of get into their backstory, but there just wasn't enough character depth there, and it made the movie seem very flat. There wasn't a lot of depth to it, and I thought that was kind of a missed opportunity. And, that may change. They may keep doing sequels and keep a core team, but who knows. But for this one, I think they should have developed the characters a little more before this movie. Some things that really bugged me. So I'm going to compare this to Birds of Prey, which I hated. Could not stand that movie, by the way. Too goofy, too over the top, too unrealistic. It was so stupid. I hated that movie. But there are bits and pieces of this that kind of reminded me of that. One in particular was the fight scenes with Harley Quinn. They were just really poorly done. It's not even the fight choreography was bad. It just made no sense. And that's exactly how it was in Birds of Prey. There were so many fight scenes where you'd see characters, the bad guys, just like standing there doing nothing, waiting to get hit. And it's like, that's just so unrealistic. Like, if people were attacking each other, they wouldn't just stand there and wait to get punched in the face. And it was the same thing in Birds of Prey where Harley took out the whole police office with that like beanbag gun and no one used their guns. Same thing here. She literally walked into a room where there was guns lined up on the wall. That was literally the background, was guns all over the wall. And then all these people go up to fight her with like knives and stuff. It's like, why wouldn't people use guns? It's stuff like that where it's like, it made no sense. It would be one thing if she went into a room and there was just people there, but she literally walked into like an arsenal hall with guns lining the walls. Like, why would you make that the background if you're planning on these characters like fist fighting? That just seemed like poor directing or poor writing. I don't know, but like, why would you do that? That was so goofy and didn't make sense. And again, these fight scenes, it was just kind of Harley Quinn like kicking people around and people just waiting there, waiting to get kicked by her. Like, it just was such a goofy fight scene. It was just, that was very poorly done. And that reminded me exactly of Birds of Prey. Was not a fan of that at all. And the same thing when they get into the big tower where Starro is, that really rainy scene where they're creeping up on people. Same thing. That just made no sense. Like, what kind of rain is it where you couldn't see people right in front of you? And they did like some weird effects with the rain and made it really bright to kind of make it seem cloudy, and it just looked really stupid. And it just like the characters like couldn't see things right in front of them. I'm like, what rain is this? Is it raining paint? Like, how can you not see right in front of you? And why can the Suicide Squad see them, but these guards can't see them right in front of them? And then again, no one's using guns, or they just like, it was just a little too kiddish and goofy. It just didn't really add up. It didn't make sense. And I get that they're trying to make this a comedy, but it still has to be believable and realistic. And that's why I keep saying there was really no depth to this movie. There was no like deep character development. There was no like deep story. It was just kind of like surface stuff happening. And I think they need to work on that a little bit. And another part that I thought was particularly goofy was towards the end where King Shark bit this guy's head off, and it shows a close-up of him with the guy's head in his mouth, and then the character's eyes are still like looking around, and it's like, okay, like, what is this? Like, what the fuck's going on? Like, what is this movie now? Are we just playing around? Like, I would assume there's some basis of realism here. Again, I know they're going the comedy route, and that's fine, but at a certain point, it's just not funny. It's just stupid. I don't understand what they're trying to go for here. It's almost like they're breaking the fourth wall by making things so unbelievably unrealistic. It's little bits and pieces like that. It was just a little too goofy for my taste, and I think they need to keep it more on the realistic side. So it was kind of counterproductive to make this rated R and have it bloody and swearing and all this serious stuff, and then have scenes like that where it's like, this seems like it belonged in like a Scooby-Doo episode or something like that, a cartoon. It was just too goofy, so it just didn't really add up, didn't make sense there. And one thing about the ending, I still like the ending more in this one than the original one, but it had the same kind of stupid development where it's like there are these hardened villains that are murdering people all the time, and then at the end of the movie, all of a sudden they get a conscience. And it's like, well, that's a little hard for me to believe. They did the same in the first one where they were bad and they had the chance to run away, and they're like, no, let's do the right thing. And it's like, that's totally counterintuitive to their characters. And they kind of did the same thing here, not as much, where it's like all these characters didn't give a shit about anything, and now all of a sudden they're like, let's save people. And it's like, Not that that's bad, but like, what's going on here? Which character are you? You can't play both sides. You got to kind of pick a lane and stick to it. So that was a little more goofy. And overall, as far as liking this better or worse than the first one, I don't really know. The first one still had great things about it, and this one had cool things about it, but neither really significantly stands out as the leading front runner. Honestly, this movie in general seemed like it had a lower budget. It didn't. It had 10 million more in budget, but it seems like it did. The first movie, I'll keep referring to the first half of that movie, absolutely brilliant. I love the first half of that first movie. Absolutely amazing. I love the character development. I love the music they did with it. I watched that all the time, but just the first half, because it was so good. I loved it. It was amazing. And then the second half just took a hard dive. And then this one was kind of just a little more smoothed out. It wasn't like horrible at any time, but nothing was amazing about it. There was nothing that was, and again, it just seemed like poor directing where there was no scenes that looked really well done, really polished, really high budget. It looked kind of cheaply done and kind of goofy, the same way that Birds of Prey did. So I don't really know what to say whose is better. The first one is half good, half bad, and this one's just kind of all okay. So I don't really know which direction to go. But I will say I hope they lead this somewhere. The problem I have with this, since the characters had no depth, they're constantly killing people off all the way, it's hard to get invested in this movie. It's hard to appreciate any story or character when they're killing people off or they're not telling their background. So it's just, I don't know, that's why it makes it seem flat. It doesn't have a lot of depth to it. So all that being said, as far as the score on this movie, I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. It's right there in the middle. Wasn't horrible. I had some complaints about it. There were things that bugged me, as you heard, but there were things I liked about it. But even the things I did like weren't amazing, weren't mind-blowing. I wish they could take the essence of that first movie, the first half. It's like they had 2 directors for that movie. If they could just make that first half of the movie and drag it out, it would have been the greatest movie ever. But they didn't do that. And this one just had a lot of, seemed like it was trying to do too many things. It was trying to be adult. It was trying to be violent and intense. Then it was trying to be childish, and it was trying to be comedic, but it was doing these stupid jokes. And the characters were, some of them were trying to be deep, and then they changed their character like halfway through the movie. And it was just kind of all over the place, and it just kind of goofy, kind of all it was. So that's why I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. So yeah, that's the quick synopsis of it, but let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you like one of the Suicide Squad movies significantly better than the other one? How do you feel about the soft reboot? Does it seem like a sequel to you? These questions and answers and more in the comments. Please let me know what you think. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Other than that, I think the next big movie is not going to be Shang-Chi in September, and I think it's like late September, so that's a bummer. I wish we had more movies this summer, but very lackluster summer, understandably so, but hopefully there will be more. But the good news is there's so much Marvel stuff coming up, so there will be lots to talk about there. And What If is starting next week, and I actually am excited for a Marvel show for once, so hopefully they don't shit the bed on that one. As far as other videos, we got some monthly reviews. I got some more subscription boxes coming up, and please tune into my Instagram. I got a lot of stuff that I'm posting on there too of new things, how-tos. Other than that, thank you for watching and supporting. I'll see you on the next video. Love you all. Peace.